Today we welcome D. Paul Fleming, a Native American holy man, a Heyoka, a healer, and a courageous investigator of the mysterious realms where spirit and matter intersect. With a lifetime devoted to confronting dark forces, cleaning haunted spaces, and guiding people back to spiritual safety, he carries a rare blend of ancestral wisdom, Christian faith, and supernatural insight. His stories are not mere tales, they are lived experiences, visions, and messages shaped by Great Spirit itself. This conversation invites us into the unseen world where healing, protection, and purpose converge. Welcome to the show. It's such an honor to have you.
That's very kind of you. Thank you for having me on.
Mhm. So, your work places you at the intersection of healing and spiritual warfare. What truth do most people misunderstand about dark energies and their influence on human lives?
Yeah, that's a big question. That's a very, very big question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I start? Where would I start?
Mm-hmm. Um. So, what do you think? What truth do most people misunderstand about dark energies?
What do I think they misunderstand the most? Probably that it doesn't exist or that they're not surrounded by it every day. And when they get frustrated because something they're trying to do in a good way is getting blocked or interfered with, or they get frustrated because they can't accomplish it. You know, at times you got to step back and say, why? Not why can't I do it? Why is it being hampered? Why is it so difficult? Right? Um, More times than not, there are dark forces countering what you're trying to do in a positive white light way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. And what is dark energy's influence on human lives?
Well, it influences everything we do, right? The whispers in your ear, you know, I like to use this example. When people get drunk and they do stupid stuff, right? Everybody that's ever drank has done stupid stuff. Okay. Here's my question. When you're when you're drunk and you recover that you're recovering the next day and you say, well, I don't remember doing that. Here's my question. Did you remember doing it when you were doing it? Or let me say that differently. Did you know it was wrong when you were doing it? And the alcohol or drugs or whatever you were taking to get high influenced you to do stupid stuff, right? Right? How many people out there have had too much vino and done some really stupid stuff? Well, where do those ideas come from? Is that the inner part of your soul forcing you or steering you to do really stupid stuff, dangerous stuff, or is it dark forces? Well, think about the word spirit. Where'd it come from? Right? Why do we call alcohol spirits? Right? Because when you drink it, you tear down the barrier between you and the world beyond. If you didn't know that, next time somebody takes a drink, remember what happens. What do you see? What senses open up? What inhibitions lower? Right? So is that influenced by the dark forces? Well, it doesn't sound like white light encouraging you to jump off a bridge or you know get drunk and do some really stupid stuff. Doesn't sound like it to me. Listen, I lived the life, so I'm well versed on it, and I know this. Anybody that comes to me and says, "Well, I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing," I say to them, "Yeah, I bet you knew what you were doing at the time you were doing it."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but when someone unknowingly attracts these energies, what early signs do you encourage them to look for before things intensify?
Let's use depression as an example. Depression doesn't just happen in the blink of an eye. It takes time to build up, at least in my experiences, right? So where is that depression coming from? Is it coming from something legitimate? You lost a loved one, you lost a pet, right? You you got a bad grade and you're really dwelling on it too much. I mean, where's it coming from? Okay. More times than not, um, darkness will influence you in very, very subtle ways. Just kind of like when you're at a fork in the road and you don't really realize it, but you're trying to figure out what to do next. There's two voices that are trying to steer you. One's your white light voice, and the other is a dark voice that's trying to pull you in the wrong direction. So, paying attention to what your voices are saying, the voice inside of you is saying is kind of the first sign, but paying attention to what your thoughts are trying to do to you in a sense of take you down the wrong path, right? If it's easy, if they say it's easy, it's, oh, this will be easy. We can do this. Well, nothing worth doing is really easy. I'm not saying everything isn't easy, but when it seems too easy, it's kind of like that old saying, when it's too good to be true, it probably is, right? Pay attention to that. But when it's changing your personality or people around you are saying, something's changed about you or you're different, pay attention to that. I'm not telling you that it's a bad thing, but I'm telling you to pay attention to that and investigate yourself and see if the path you're going down is the path you want or if you're being taken down the wrong path. So look for subtle changes or maybe not so subtle changes in your personality, your nature, your daily routine, things you used to like to do, you're not doing. Church is a great example, right? When darkness gets into you deep enough, well, they'll steer you away from going to church or doing your religious work or your faith work, whatever you believe in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that clarity reframes the unseen not as something to fear, but something to understand and navigate with awareness.
Yeah, that's true. I used to fear what I didn't know. And then one day I said, listen, I got to start figuring this stuff out. And as I figured it out, it takes the fear away. So, for me, fear is a lack of understanding. You don't know what's going to happen or you don't know what a poltergeist is and it's throwing stuff around. And I mean, it can be terrifying. But once you understand that a poltergeist, for example, is just a ball of negative energy that can be dealt with, at least, you know, for me, relatively easily, right? I don't want to challenge anything out there, but when I started studying deep, deep, deep spirit work, the fear of the rest of the stuff kind of faded away.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. And as a Heyoka and holy man, your path carries deep ancestral responsibility. How does your native heritage shape the way you perceive and confront malevolent forces?
How does well? I've got a lot of uh, native spirits around me, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure so much how to answer that question. How do I answer that question? Can you rephrase that question? I'm not sure how to address that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but okay. So when your Christian faith and native traditions meet, how do they support one another in your work?
Well, a lot of people have a misconception that. Um, well, let me try answering it this way. So the path I walk involves Christianity and my Native American roots. People have a hard time understanding that because they don't understand Christianity and they certainly don't understand Native American culture.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you have rescued people from dark attachments and possessions. What emotional or spiritual vulnerabilities make individuals more susceptible to these experiences?
So, first and foremost, if you're not standing in God's light, in the light of Christ, in the light of the universe, um, that's kind of strike one, if you will. Um, Spending time with negative energy, okay, doing negative stuff, constantly being on the downward side of life, right? Never seeing the good in people or, um, you know, walking with Christ. Uh, if you don't have something positive, so a purpose that's white light focused, you're going to be open to the dark forces of the universe. But on the opposite side of that, if you're not doing anything, you're just a neutral person. I bump into these folks every now and again. They don't really have faith and they don't, care about the dark side. and they walk a path that doesn't let either side, white or dark, influence their life. Okay, that's a unique perspective, right? What does that tell me? That tells me that there's people out there that, um, you know, don't necessarily walk with white light, but can prevent the darkness from interfering in their life. How? I'm not entirely sure, because everything around me is about white light and dark energies and so on. So I live kind of a different path.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. And when someone is already overwhelmed by fear, what is the first stabilizing step you help them take?
Well, again, the first line of defense is always standing in the light of Christ. Always standing in the light of Christ, inviting in God's light, whatever you believe in the that's on the positive white light side of the universe. Okay, inviting that in and expelling any and all negative, dark, or gray forces, energies from within or around you. Okay, these are things I do daily to ensure that I'm constantly pushing back on the dark forces and opening myself up to the positive white light forces of the universe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, that grounding makes the process feel humane, honoring the fear while guiding them back to the strength. So, your books are guided by visions and what you call your ghostwriter. How do these messages come to you? And what tells you they are meant to be shared with the world?
Well, some of it comes when I'm writing, or a good portion of it does, if you will. Um, I just type and I just let it flow through me. I mean, there's people out there that do auto spirit writing. I'm not sure the right term for it. They sit in a room and listen and write blindly. I kind of do the same thing, except I'm interacting with the ghostwriter as I type whatever's coming to me. Um, you know, and does that answer your question?
Yes, 100%. And have there been moments when the message was so unexpected or challenging that you resisted writing it?
Yeah, I'll give you a harsh story to back that up. Um, 3.5 years ago, I had a dream, and again, I dream often, and many times my dreams show the future. So uh, this particular dream, I was I didn't want to deal with it, and I woke up, wrote it down, crossed it out, wrote it down, crossed it out. Struggled with actually acknowledging the dream existed because I was worried that I would be manifesting it. So I mean, doing spirit work is challenging, right? There's a lot of stuff you bump up against that you have to kind of understand. But 3.5 years ago, I had a dream, and then 6 months ago, it came true. What was that dream? Well, 3.5 years ago, I dreamt that my wife had cancer. 6 months ago, she was diagnosed with aggressive, non-curable breast cancer. Right? I spent 3 years not saying a word about it, right? Because I mean, I've got a ton of secrets, if you will, that come to me from the spirit world that show me what's coming, and that's a heavy, heavy burden. And using my wife as the example, um, you know, makes it even more palatable, if that's the right word. Um, anyway, that's an example, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for listeners who sense a presence, experience unexplained disturbance, or feel spiritually unsafe, what is your most essential piece of guidance?
Well, first and foremost, connect with the light of God. Okay, connect with the light of God, and denounce all negative, dark, or gray energies or entities. Right? It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in. Um, Whatever you believe in on the positive white light side of things, call it in. Call it in to protect you. Call it in to wrap the light of God, the light of Christ, whatever it is you believe in. Wrap it around you, and ask for God's shield to protect you against any and all negative, dark, or gray forces, and release all energies that don't belong to you to God, to Great Spirit, right? Release it from your existence. I do this daily, right? I don't want any negative energies affecting my ability to do what I'm here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, totally. And once they begin reclaiming their space or spirit, what attitude ensures they stay protected and empowered?
Well, um, if you are being influenced by dark energies, then you, like me, have a lifetime in front of you of daily routines of surrounding yourself in the light of Christ, wrapping yourself in great spirits on protection, right, and learning whatever techniques you need to learn to balance that, balance your existence. You know, you've got to do grounding work and connecting to the light above work and wrapping yourself up in different forms of protection so that darkness, um, struggles to get to you. Right, you want to make it as difficult for them as it is for them to get to you, right? But again, it's a it's a lot of work, right? So if you've been affected or attacked by darkness, know this: you can solve this problem yourself. If you want to get help, find help, but stand in the light of Christ and just do as much praying, as much cleansing work, as much healing work as it takes to get the darkness not only out of you, but away from you. And as you continue to build up your spiritual strength, you will push that darkness farther and farther away and make it harder and harder for the dark forces to get to you, to influence you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that advice brings both reassurance and authority, helping people feel less alone in experiences that can be deeply isolating.
Well, I want to be careful about how I say this because I isolate myself often. Okay. So anybody out there that's isolating because they're doing spirit work or they're comfortable that way, but in a good way, then that's fine. All right. I mean, I'm not a big crowd person. I'm not great around a lot of live bodies. Just too much energy. So isolation, especially when you're trying to overcome darkness, may not be a bad path. Right. But on the same breath, you have to be careful because dark forces want to isolate you so they can continue to pick you apart, until they can claim your soul. Right? And again, remember this whole good versus evil game is about claiming your soul, right? So always declare your soul belongs to the white light universe, to Buddha, Jesus, whatever it is you believe in. Okay, on the good side, again, on the good side of the spectrum, right? Um, anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. So, Deepa, thank you for sharing your extraordinary journey and the profound truths you have gained through service, courage, and communion with Spirit. Your insight reminds us that the unseen world is not distant, it interacts with us daily, asking for awareness, humility, and strength. To everyone listening, may this conversation inspire you to seek protection where needed, honor your intuition, and stand firmly in your own light. Healing and harmony begins when we choose not to run from the unknown, but to understand it.